Personality Development by Swami Vivekananda. Today's subject is It is Personality That Matters. What we want is to see the man who is harmoniously developed, great in heart, great in mind, great in deed. We want the man whose heart feels intensely the miseries and sorrows of the world, and we want the man who not only can feel but can find the meaning of things, who delves deeply into the heart of nature and understanding. We want the man who will not even stop there, but who wants to work out the feeling and meaning by actual deeds. Such a combination of head, heart, and hands is what we want. You see what is happening all around us. The world is one of influence. Part of our energy is used up in the preservation of our own bodies. Beyond that, every particle of our energy is day and night being used in influencing others. Our bodies, our virtues, our intellect, and our spirituality, all these are continuously influencing others. And so, conversely, we are being influenced by them. This is going on all around us. Now, to take a concrete example, a man comes, he is very learned, his language is beautiful, and he speaks to you by the hour. But he does not make any impression. Another man comes, and he speaks a few words, not well arranged, ungrammatical perhaps. All the same, he makes an immense impression. Many of you have seen that. So, it is evident that words alone cannot always produce an impression. Words, even thoughts, contribute only one third of the influence in making an impression, the main two thirds, what you call the personal magnetism of the man. That is what goes out and impresses you. In our families, there are the heads. Some of them are successful, others are not. Why? We complain of others in our failures. The moment I am unsuccessful, I say, so and so is the cause of the failure. In failure, one does not like to confess one's own faults and weaknesses. Each person tries to hold himself faultless and lay the blame upon somebody or something else, or even on bad luck. When heads of families fail, they should ask themselves why it is that some persons manage a family so well and others do not. Then you will find that the difference is owing to the man, his presence, his personality. Coming to great leaders of mankind, we always find that it was the personality of the man that counted. Now, take all the great authors of the past, the great thinkers. Really speaking, how many thoughts have they thought? Take all the writings that have been left to us by the past leaders of mankind. Take each one of their books and appraise them. The real thoughts, new and genuine, that have been thought in this world up to this time, amount to only a handful. Read in their books the thoughts they have left to us. The authors do not appear to be giants to us, and yet we know that they were great giants in their days. What made them so? Not simply the thoughts they thought, neither the books they wrote, nor the speeches they made. It was something else that is now gone, that is their personality. As I have already remarked, the personality of the man is two thirds, and his intellect, his words are but one third. It is the real man, the personality of the man, that runs through us. Our actions are but effects. Actions must come when the man is there. The effect is bound to follow the cause. The ideal of all education, all training should be this man making. But instead of that, we are always trying to polish up the outside. What use in polishing up the outside when there is no inside? The end and aim of all training is to make the man grow. The man who influences, who throws his magic, as it were, upon his fellow beings, is a dynamo of power. And when that man is ready, he can do anything and everything he likes. That personality put upon anything will make it work. Our next point is laws of personality development. The science of yoga claims that it has discovered the laws which develop this personality, and by proper attention to those laws and methods, each one can grow and strengthen his personality. This is one of the great practical things, and this is the secret of all education. This has a universal application in the life of a householder, in the life of the poor, the rich, the man of business, the spiritual man. In everyone's life, it is a great thing, the strengthening of this personality. There are laws, very fine, which are behind the physical laws, as we know. That is to say, there are no such realities as a physical world, a mental world, a spiritual world. Whatever is one. Let us say it is a sort of tapering existence. The thickest part is here, it tapers and becomes finer and finer. The finest is what we call spirit, the grossest the body. And just as it is here in microcosm, it is exactly the same in the macrocosm. The universe of ours is exactly like that. It is the gross external thickness, and it tapers into something finer and finer until it becomes God. We also know that the greatest power is lodged in the fine, not the coarse. We see a man take up a huge weight. We see his muscle swell, and all over his body we see signs of exertion. And we think the muscles are powerful things, but it is the thin thread-like things, the nerves, which bring power to the muscles. The moment one of these threads is cut off from reaching the muscles, they are not able to work at all. These tiny nerves bring the power from something still finer, and that again in its turn brings it from something finer still. Thought and so on. So it is the fine that is really the seat of power. Of course, we can see the movement in the gross, but when fine movements take place, we cannot see them. When a gross thing moves, we catch it, and thus we naturally identify movement with things which are gross. But all the power is really in the fine. We do not see any movement in the fine, perhaps because the movement is so intense that we cannot perceive it. But if by any science, any investigation, we are helped to get hold of these finer forces which are the cause of the expression itself will be under control. There is a little bubble coming from the bottom of a lake. We do not see it coming all the time. We see it only when it bursts on the surface. So, we can perceive thoughts only after they develop a great deal or after they become actions. We constantly complain that we have no control over our actions, over our thoughts. But how can we have it? If we can get control over the fine movements, if we can get hold of thought at the root before it has become thought, before it has become action, then it would be possible for us to control the whole. Now, if there is a method by which we can analyze, investigate, understand, and finally grapple with those finer powers, the finer causes, then alone is it possible to have control over ourselves. And the man who has control over his own mind assuredly will have control over every other mind. That is why purity and morality have been always the object of religion. A pure moral man has control of himself, and all minds are the same, different parts of one mind. He who knows one lump of clay has known all the clay in the universe. He who knows and controls his own mind knows the secret of every mind and has power over every mind. Now, a good deal of our physical evil we can get rid of if we have control over the fine parts. A good many worries we can throw off if we have control over the fine movements. A good many failures can be averted if we have control over the fine powers. Our next point is different layers of personality. This gross part of man, this body in which are the external instruments, is called in Sanskrit Sthula Sarira, the gross body. Behind it comes the series, beginning with the organs, the mind, the intellect, the egoism. These and the vital forces form a compound which is called the fine body, the Sukshma Sarira. These forces are composed of very fine elements, so fine that no amount of injury to this body can destroy them. They survive all the shocks given to this body. The gross body we see is composed of gross material, and as such it is always being renewed and changing continuously. But the internal organs, the mind, the intellect, and the egoism are composed of the finest material, so fine that they will endure for aeons and aeons. They are so fine that they cannot be resisted by anything. They can get through any obstruction. The gross body is non intelligent, so is the fine, being composed of fine matter. Although one part is called mind, another the intellect, and the third egoism, yet we see at a glance that no one of them can be the knower. None of them can be the perceiver, the witness, the one for whom action is made, and who is the seer of the action. All these movements in the mind, or the faculty of intellection, or egoism, must be for someone else. These being composed of fine matter cannot be self-effulgent. Their luminosity cannot be in themselves. This manifestation of the table, for instance, cannot be due to any material thing. Therefore, there must be someone behind them all, who is the real manifester, the real seer, the real enjoyer, and he in Sanskrit is called the Atman, the soul of man, the real self of man. The body is dying every minute. The mind is constantly changing. The body is a combination, and so is the mind, and as such can never reach to a state beyond all change, but beyond this momentary sheathing of gross matter. Beyond even the finer covering of the mind is the Atman, the true self of man, the permanent, the ever free. It is his freedom that is percolating through layers of thought and matter, and in spite of the coloring of name and form, is ever asserting its unshackled existence. It is his deathlessness, his bliss, his peace, his divinity that shines out and makes itself felt in spite of the thickest layers of ignorance. He is the real man, the fearless one, the deathless one, the free. Now, freedom is only possible when no external power can exert any influence, produce any change. Freedom is only possible to the being who is beyond all conditions or laws, all bondages of cause and effect. In other words, the unchangeable alone can be free and therefore immortal. This being, this Atman, this real self of man, the free, the unchangeable, is beyond all conditions, and as such, it has neither birth nor death. Every human personality may be compared to a glass globe. There is the same pure white light, an emission of the divine being, in the center of each, but the glass being of different colors and thickness. The rays assume diverse aspects in the transmission. The equality and beauty of each central flame is the same, and the apparent inequality is only in the imperfection of the temporal instrument of its expression. As we rise higher and higher in the scale of being, the medium becomes more and more translucent. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat.